Exactly. Well, tonight we will start talking about all the uh, visas process where Australia, RC Australia made. Then Paul will start talking about the business process, what that is important, and Graham will start talking about of turning all these ideas in a successful innovation project and all the venture capital funds and opportunity for business. At the very end, we welcome everyone to ask every question to our presenters tonight.
Okay, this is my cue. Well, the subject I have to discuss is the investment and visa options we have in Australia available for people who like to stay as a permanent resident based upon investment business or business. So basically, I like to introduce a little bit who is RC Australia Migration. We are a migration agency registered before the Australian government, which means that we must to comply with a very strict code of conduct, working in only benefit of our clients. We are the largest migration agency in Latin America for Australia. We have 12 years of experience dealing with the regulations of the department, of the tribunal, of the different states. Our philosophy is your success. This is what we do. For us, getting the visas is our mainly and unique concern. As a policy, only take cases with high success probability. We already get more than 1,000 visas approved, and our success rate is above 98%. Thanks God. Going into the visas, I think that the best way to understand the investment options or the entrepreneurial options is to make four groups. The first group is, I prefer to name investment and business visas, and that includes the business visas, the venture capital visas, and the pure investment visas. We will develop the point in a moment. The second group is the small business owner visas, which belongs to the skilled migration program. The third group is called the self-sponsor visa, and I will prefer to say that this self-sponsor should be said between inverted commas, because it's somebody creating his own business to sponsor him, but has a little trick over there. And lastly, the other group of visas, which is very, very particular, we could be a little bit of oddities in visas. So let's start about the first one. The investment on business visas all require state approval. So if you decide to go for Tasmania, the requirements and the interest of Tasmania could be different from the requirements of interest from New South Wales and so on. So this is very important because you must to comply not only with the federal requirements, but also with the state requirements. The first visa we have is the 188 business owner. This visa is for people who already have a business, and the business has been running for no less than 2 years, and the business produce a turnover of no less than $500,000 per annum. So this visa allows the owner of the business to set the same business or any other in Australia. Basic requirements for this visa: they have to score 65 points in a points table to really check how is the experience, how is the business, how have been managing other aspects of the business profile. Second, quite important, net assets of no less than 800,000 dollars. And I like to stress this visa is all about business plan and financial models. In this visa, and you will see in all these visas in this category, is very in this group about entrepreneurship and investment. The key element is to have a solid, robust business plan and financial model. This is not about the person, this is about the business. Okay, the second category is called Entrepreneur Venture Capital Visa, which is not for people who already have a business, but more importantly, for people who has an innovative idea. This visa uh, aim to attract entrepreneurs, people who has interesting things to do, who has ideas, and they must to secure funding from a venture capital fund of no less than $200,000. I will let Paul and Grafa later to expand this idea, but the balance of the innovative idea in one side and getting the funding from the other. The third visa is the business talent, and I love this name because it's a very good explanation which is looking for. This business talent visa is for seasoned business owner because they must to prove that they have in the business for more than 2 years. The bar regarding sales is higher, is $3 million per annum, and the minimum assets they must to have is 1.5 mil. This 1.5 mil is not to bring over to Australia, but must to prove that they have this amount of goods, of assets. There is a fourth visa, which is the business talent entrepreneur stream. Again, this is for ideas that source in capital funding, and the amount for funding is $1 million. Again, most to be will be channeled by a venture capital fund. And lastly is the pure investor visas. Pure investor business is not about to set a business, is having the money, invest the money, and depending of the amount of to be invested, you can choose between just paper from the state or a more balanced investment in the case of investment of 5 million, or a more complex set of investment in the case of 15 million. So these five visas are the investment and business visas. So let's move for the second group. In the second group, we have the small business owner. In the first one is this is a visa that offer Tasmania. Tasmania offer this visa for people who like to set a business. This is for a startup business, for a small business, most to be new businesses. There are some exclusions, franchises, service stations, and so on. But the beauty of that is that there is not a minimum investment. You can set the business, and if the business give you the money to live about, you can apply for nomination from the state and get the visa. On the other hand, Queensland offers something a little more different. In the case of Queensland, is not about a startup business, is about existing business. So the idea is offering for migrants to buy an existing business in regional Queensland, meaning all Queensland except Brisbane. Could be Cairns, could be Mackay, could be Sunshine Coast, could be Gold Coast, could be anything not Brisbane, and to buy a business. The business must to be valued on no less than 100,000 million, sorry, $100,000, and this is basically to operate the business for 6 months. And after 6 months, you will be eligible for getting your visa and then to stay in Australia as a resident. In the third group, there is the we call self-sponsor, which is really not a self-sponsor visas, meaning that is a business who sponsor his founders or his directors. So the key element here is that you have a legal person, which is the business, and another person, which is the individual who's the owner. So these visas, we must to address basically three key elements: the employer, the business, who has to meet some requirements regarding size, regarding turnover, regarding what they do and how they do. The second element is the position, meaning that not all occupations could be sponsored by the business. And depending on the occupation, you can go for a permanent residency or a temporary residency, meaning in the more skilled occupation, you can get the permanent residency. In the less skilled occupations, you only have the temporary residency. And the third and last element is the applicant. The applicant must to have certain experience, certain levels of English, and certain qualifications. The message more important about the self-sponsor visas is everything is about the business, is not about the applicant. So if we like to succeed in a self-sponsor visas, we must to provide a very solid business proposal, because the key element for this visa is the Australian business, the Australian employer needs an employee, not the way we're around. When it's an employee who has created a business to stay in Australia, is very likely to fail. It's the other way around. So that's here the important part is the business necessarily. And lastly, we talk about the other business visas. There is a very interesting pilot that South Australia ran last year. It's called CISA, Supporting Innovation South Australia, that promote seed stage entrepreneurs with innovative ideas. The entrepreneur present the idea to the South Australian government. If they met the requirement, they give him a 3 year visa to develop the program. The success of this program has been very little. There is less than 20 cases, and application will be closed in November 2020. Likely will be open again, but for now is closed. Well, will be closed in December this year. And the last one in this group is the Migration Innovation Northern Territory, MINT, which is a joint venture between Paspalis Asset Management Group, and which is a venture capital group, and the government of Northern Territory. They put together a fund to support entrepreneurs living in Northern Territory. The program has been successful, very successful in the financial year 2019-2020, and we expect a second stage in the year 2020-2021. In this regard, for the people interested in setting business in Northern Territory, will be very, very interesting. Well, those four groups is what we can tell you there is each visa has his pros and his cons, but there are many options. There are many options, and you can mix. You can start with type of visa and move to another. There is not one size fits all. I think it's the contrary. We must to assess each case to offer the right visa. And this is all from my side. I pass the presentation to my friend Paul, who will talk about the other aspect of the business visas. Thank you very much.
That's perfect. Thank you, Juan. Now we welcome Paul.
Thank you, Juan, and thank you, Nicholas. My name is Paul Raftery, and I'm a Director of Projects RH in Sydney. First, a few words about Projects RH. Our core business is to link good projects with money. What we do is communications. We speak the language of money. We are a multidiscipline practice with a wide ecosystem of skill mixed amongst our people. We work across the economy and apply our core skills of corporate finance to what we do. But most importantly, we stick with you for your corporate journey. We work with RC Australia to provide the source documents and business models necessary for you to get state or territory support for a visa application. As Juan has explained, we work with Graham Kinder at River Gold Capital to assist you to gain support from a state or territory government, which requires the support of a venture capital fund. What we do in our work is we access our wide group of friends, including people like engineers, to prepare the documents you need. The scope of our work is determined by the recommendation we receive from one at RC Australia. We will agree to work with you on your path forward, and we focus on delivering. If you could do the next slide, please. Thank you. We receive an advice on what's the best path for your migration. So, and mostly we work with the business side of it. So we don't actually deal with the individual. As Juan said, it's very much all about demonstrating the ability of the business. And we work with each of the criteria he mentioned. So we deal with entrepreneurs who start with 200,000 Australian dollars. We work with business owners to demonstrate that their businesses can deliver what is required. We understand the special rules in Queensland and Tasmania, for example, and can help you find the businesses that have been in operation in Queensland for 12 months that meet your requirement. And we also help people to prepare a portfolio for their $1.5 million investment visa, which can demonstrate to the government that they will not be dependent on government. So what it is that you're going to be self-supporting. We work with you on the path or direction we receive from RC Australia. We deal with the commercial aspects of what you're trying to do. What we do is prepare for you is that the communications documents you require to demonstrate to state or territory governments and to the national government that you are ready for the business and it's likely to be profitable. We work with you first, though, to clarify your business ideas and to make sure they meet the objects of qualifying for the investment visa. Next slide, please. Put simply, our job is to put your business case together. We prepare a series of documents which meet the protocols and approvals for each state and territory. And as Juan pointed out, they're different. So we need to be cognizant of what's needed for each. What's important is we first sit down with you and prepare a financial model and information memorandum. The financial models is the numbers work, and therefore we should proceed. The information memorandum is your story. This is how it's going to happen, how it's going to work, where it's going to be. Depending on your case, we engage with a relevant specialist who can help us to make sure that the business plan reflects the needs of the local state or territory. We then move to produce a pitch deck or slide presentation. This you take to investors and to government. What it does is demonstrates that you understand and you can summarise what you're going to do. They tend to be about 16 slides. And then finally, we provide you with a one-page teaser document. It's your executive summary. It tells everyone you know where you're going. And if you can't say it in a page, you probably can't explain it. If you go to the next slide, please. What we do is provide you also with a network which works with you as you continue on your journey. We help you with company formation if that's required. We help you deal with accounting and tax advice, and you will need this in your process. We help you with preparing government applications for licenses, etc. We engage with a credit advisor to help you deal with banks. We get you the engineering reports and independent reviews or valuations you need to justify what you're doing. Our team will help you with marketing so that you have the right image. And if it's appropriate, we can help you with a video presentation which shows what you're doing. Next slide, please. We shall support you in the transition to working with River Gold Capital. So we have prepared the documents and we explain to Graham Kinder how it's the intention of one, and we work as a team to get you the support you need. So in the examples where you need support from a venture capital fund, we help you via to achieve this. The material we provide for you for use with the state or territory government is also used to work with qualified venture capital funds. We will work with you and River Gold to seek other investors as well. As with one, our success is your success. Graham, your turn next, sir.
And indeed, thank you, Paul. I am very keen to now just develop a little bit of a discussion about some of the business ideas that we've talked about, because anyone can have a good idea, an innovation, something that is, they think is a great idea. Having a great idea is one thing. Turning it into something that's successful is something completely different. And most importantly, we're talking to you about Australia as a place to come and live and work. This is a nation that welcomes innovation. It welcomes people who want to come and work. Australia has a proud history of supporting innovation and invention. I think all the way back to our Indigenous original Australians, the Aboriginals, inventing boomerangs and didgeridoos and woomeras and many other tools. Our nation has picked up on that need for creation, development, innovation. Many of you may not be aware, but Australia invented Google Maps. When you come to Australia, many of you will come by plane. The radar systems that get you here are invented by Australians. The black box flight recorder is an Australian invention. Turning the invention of, or the discovery of penicillin into medicine is an Australian idea. The very banknotes that are used in most countries, the polymer, the plastic notes, they're Australian. bionic ears, Australian inventions, an electric drill. I'm speaking to you tonight using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is an Australian invention. Now, we're not expecting you to come up with Wi-Fi, but there are many just simple ideas that entrepreneurs just like you have, and we really need those ideas in Australia. It helps build our nation and build our economy. We really do welcome innovation, and our job with River Gold Capital at Projects RH and with Juan Guillermo to help with your visas is to try and turn your ideas into a real business in Australia. So we might just move to the next slide if that's okay. I think importantly though, having a good idea is great. There are more things to make it successful than that. We need people like you, but need to make a commitment to take a bit of a business risk. You need to be prepared to move to Australia to invest a little bit of your own money. We also need people who are willing to really work to succeed. There's no easy pathway to immigration visas to Australia. We're looking for people who want to come and join our society and help us all work and grow. And that means setting some goals, some short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. And within our network, we're happy to help you to crystallize those goals, set them down in paper, and then build them into the business plan. We also need people, and these things are fairly self-evident, but people who are confident, enthusiastic, passionate. If we're going to try and help you raise some money, we need you to be passionate about the business that you're going to move into. Now, you may have that idea. Maybe we need to help you find a business concept that you can adopt as yours and move forward. But that means you need to be, as we've said, self-motivated. One real trap, though, for entrepreneurs is that they tend to spend too many hours working on the business and rather than trying to work with a nice balanced lifestyle. So we will try and help you to build a business that will allow you to get that work-life balance. We need your whole family to be there supporting you. We also need to work with people who are happy to take advice. As you can see tonight, neither Juan Guillermo nor Paul Raftery nor I are working in isolation. We each work by seeking to tap into the expertise of our business colleagues. And our job is to try and help you do that with a range of business professionals, mentors, financial advisors, accountants, and other experts to help you turn your business to be really successful. Most businesses nowadays need to be very happy to work with technology. Technology is what makes the difference. We need people to be able to invest in marketing. We need people to be able to be very financially aware and working closely with the financial experts to produce reports that are going to work for the government. We also are looking for people who are here to learn. Building a successful business really is something like starting a journey of personal and professional development. So we need you to be able to focus on the important things, the things that are going to impact on your business. And again, we'll help you identify what those issues are. We need people who are open to change. I think we're all living in a COVID type environment at the moment, and business has had to change to adapt to survive. We need people who have that ability to change and adapt and survive. In other words, to be resilient. Nicholas, we might move quickly to the next slide. We've touched on it earlier, but as you can see here, on top of all of those fundamental elements that make a successful businessman, our real role is to help you, guide you through all of the state and federal government requirements to understand what additional skills are necessary to meet one of the many visas that are available to you. Importantly, if we can help you identify and focus your thinking, and if the ideas for your business are creative and innovative and meet our government requirements, not only might we look for venture capital, but there may be other important benefits that are available given by our government. Our own governments may help you with special development grants or provide you with special taxation concessions. And that is our job, is to work with you to help identify all of those grants, concessions and benefits that are available by building a business in Australia. Again, Nicholas, we might just move to the next slide. And we want to very quickly touch on the area of venture capital funds and the opportunities for business. Every business in the world has two key elements for success. They need, as we've talked about, all of those features of leadership, the self-motivation, the ability to get work-life balance, and they also need money. No business can start and succeed without some capital. So there's two real major types of capital. Debt capital, which is where you head out and look to borrow money. You can borrow money from family, from friends. Perhaps if you have some assets, your bank might assist you with some lending. There's credit card options, although we're very wary about encouraging people to run up credit card debt. The other way to raise money is what we call equity, by having shareholders, some people to actually invest in your business. There are other ways of securing equity capital and other forms of finance that come from merchant bankers or brokers, and everybody's heard of, financial consultants, all of whom are happy to help raise money. Unfortunately, they're not very ready to raise money for new businesses. They're happy to do it if a business is established, but most people coming to Australia are trying to start new or build relatively new businesses. So we come back to the area of venture capital. Now, venture capital is a group of investors who understand that new businesses and early stage businesses sometimes represent a bit of a risk, but they can often, and if they are built around a solid and sound business plan, they can often present much higher returns than a typical mature investment. The other thing we have done in Australia is to create different classes of venture capital and different types of means for investors to pool their money together. By doing it in compliance with our government's preferred guidelines, there are substantial tax benefits. One of those, for example, is what we call capital gains tax. You may, for example, start a business with an investment of $500,000. Over the next 2 or 3 years, through diligence and effort and hard work, you might build that business to be worth $2 million. So you have a capital gain of $1.5 million. Should you elect to sell the business at that time, or sell significant part of it through shares or listing it on the stock market or similar, you would realize a capital gain and would normally be exposed to a tax that could be as high as about 30% of that. You could spend $500,000 in tax. Our job is to introduce you to investors and early stage venture capitalists where we can gain for you 100% capital gains tax exemptions. So the source of using venture capital and funding it through the state and federal government programs is a real pathway to getting very
So I'm here.
No, I think we lost Graham.
So could I cover for Graham for a moment then?
Yes.
What Graham is coming to is that there is considerable advantages in having funding from a venture capital fund. Then they have certain tax accommodations they can give you and share with you because you become part of the pool of their assets. What we do with our experts in tax and accounting is work with Graham and the team at Projects RH to ensure that we get you the best structure that meets your optimum position. So Graham was trying to explain to you, and he was doing a very good job, that he and his friends as well have that expertise, and he works with Juana Germo and myself on that. If you could take us to the next slide then, please.
And indeed, Paul, I'll just quickly, I
Oh,
think
good, you're
I'm
back.
back on with you. Thank you. And that was lovely of you to do that. So thank you indeed. So our Wi-Fi, our Australian invention, is not yet perfect, but we are back on the air. Well, what one has mentioned up front is that there are a whole range of business visas and visas for entrepreneurs that are available in Australia. Many of those visas do in fact require not just you to be an investor, not just you and your family and friends to back your idea, but they also require investment from a third party, a venture capital fund. And we're happy to help you work through those visas to try and ensure that you get the best possible results that will lead you to the best possible success outcomes, not just in your business visa, but to help you then secure permanent residency, and most importantly, to have a fantastic business that's successful and helping you achieve all of your lifestyle goals in one of the greatest nations on earth. We've got everything from golden beaches to snow to mountains to big cities to country resorts to very quiet rural areas. Tonight, I'm actually speaking to you from my farm. So, we have wonderful scope for businesses right across the nation. Having said that, I think, Paul, it's a good opportunity for me to hand back to you.
Thank you, Graham. One did mention one other group we need to cover. There are a group of investor visas, 1.5 million, 5 million and $15 million. And as Juan pointed out, if you are one of those investors, you may need more. In the case of $1.5 million, you have to have that to invest, but you need to demonstrate that you have 2.25 million. What we do is prepare the documentation for you to submit as part of your process. One would make the recommendation and we would prepare the portfolio for the investment visa application. And that too still needs sponsorship. So it's important you need to understand what the requirement of the state or territory government is. Thank you. If you could move to the next slide. We're often asked the question, what can we invest in and how do you help? We will normally get a warm lead from Juana Germo with, these are the eligible rules they can that the applicant can fall into. What we do is sit down, probably with Graham, and discuss what are your areas of expertise, what experience you have in management, how risk averse are you, where would you like to live, and we put together the options for you. It's really important that you're happy. As Graham said, you're going to spend a lot of time working and you do want to have a work-life balance. So once you've made the investment decision, you've got to have something that you're going to be prepared to deliver. The Australian government wants to accept that you will be successful. So we will work with you to prepare the documentation, whether you want to run a hotel or run a factory, to show that you're likely to be successful and you will bring economic benefit to the state or territory sponsoring you. And that's really important. Each of them has rules and they want to see a particular benefit delivered. Fundamentally, our job is to put your business case together. So our role is pretty simple in one sense. We get the recommendation from RC Australia. What we first do is sit down with you and put your ideas on paper and develop a presentation from that. We need to ensure, by working with our network, that it will be acceptable to the state or territory you wish to invest in and to the Australian government. But most importantly, as Graham stressed, most of you will require investors, and we need to be able to know that we can prepare an investable case. Because everyone wants you to be successful. What you will need is an information memorandum, your story, a financial model, something that tells everybody it all makes sense and should work, a business plan. This is designed not just only to meet the requirements of the sponsoring state or territory, but shows the mechanics of how you deliver both the information memorandum and the financial model. And as I mentioned earlier, you'll need a presentation and a one-page summary. What we do is then, in most cases, give you a warm introduction to Graham Kinder at Rivergold Capital to seek for you venture capital funding, which, as Graham has explained, most of you will need to meet the requirements of your visa application. What is important from a government perspective is that somebody else investing in your business is an independent verification that you're likely to be successful. Next slide, please. What are our areas of expertise? We apply our finance skills, which we believe are transferable in a number of areas, including fintechs and smart technology, including artificial intelligence. We work in energy and solar energy and exports, healthcare services, provisions, funding and financial services, infrastructure, property development, and retail. What's most important is, across our broad network and our strategic alliances, we will be able to find the expertise in most areas that can work with you to get and develop a business in the area you want to work in. Working with Projects RH will enable you to enhance your network with our ecosystem. I think now we turn to questions and answers. Nicholas, so I think you're taking the chair back before Graham speak again.
Exactly.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you so much. Now, we welcome all your questions. I will encourage everyone to write down the name and the questions you would like to ask. Start receiving right now the first questions. Juan, this is for you.
Okay, the question goes, I hear that some state has closed the program for investment visas. Do you know whether they will open them again? Well, yeah, this is normal because the state has a quota of nominations per financial year. As the financial year is finishing, I think still we have about 5 days in this financial year 2019, 2020, and most of the core program has been complete, so the program has been closed. We definitely will wait for the next financial year, which is starting July, so the state will open the program again next month. For the self-sponsored visas, are there some minimum size for the company to sponsor its owner? Well, this is a not written size. I think there is not a specific number you have to reach. But because all the other elements you have to take into account, the number of employees, the salary you must to pay, I think that a good idea is that the company must sell something along the lines of $300,000 a year. That gives you an idea of how big will be the company.
Graham.
Okay. So the question we have is it better to borrow money or use venture capital funds to set up a new business in Australia? It's a very good question. With interest rates relatively low at the moment, it's always attractive for people to try and borrow money. The problem with borrowing money is that it must be repaid. And that can sometimes create a burden if there is a change in the business environment. So venture capital is much more patient. It's a source of funds that comes from investors who understand that there is risk. And so if there is a change in the circumstances, then they do not expect you to repay the money. My personal preference is it's always better to use venture capital to come in, and a venture capitalist will always come and be part of your team of experts. So you always have somebody, if they've been successful enough to raise money that they can afford to put at risk, they often can also support you in many ways in your business, not just with venture capital. A bank, however, when things go bad, the bank is not your friend. So I would always prefer venture capital.
Hi, we have a question from Clara, and I will give this question to Juan.
Okay, Clara. I am Colombian, living in Melbourne since 21.5 years. I'm holding a student visa at the moment. Since my arrival, I've been working as a domestic cleaner, and I have many clients, and I want to start my own business and apply with a PR. Will it be possible? Well, yes, absolutely. Nevertheless, keep in mind that setting a business is this everything we have been talking about. There are very options you have. You can set a business about cleaning. Cleaning is definitely a booming business in Australia. Must to be of certain size, but definitely you can do that. In the old times, I think 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years ago, many people self-sponsored through cleaning businesses. Now it's a little more difficult. You need to be a little more robust business, but yeah, definitely it is. Definitely it is.
Paul, this question is for you.
I think you have to go back, Nicholas.
Sorry. Thank you very much. The question here is asking, can we help them find a business on the Sunshine Coast north of Brisbane as an investment opportunity? The answer is we know of a number of businesses. We would work with them to ensure that probably to meet the investment they're looking for, the business is 1 year old or more, and that it would meet the other criteria that Juan has outlined. There are a number of opportunities available. Oh, thank you. I guess that's for me. It depends on the willingness of the client and their ability to meet with us. It normally takes between 1 and 3 months. depending on the material they have and how advanced their thinking is?
We have a
Thank you.
different question right now, but I guess Graham and Juan will help us to answer this question. Who would like to help us?
Oh yes, a business sustainable architect studio. Which one to start? Salia will be considered. Oh yes, definitely, definitely. It's well, from the point of view of the legality and the interest in the area. Yes, this is the type of small business that more is fostered but these visas. Definitely, you have a very good option here in the with the architect studio. Question about the visa 491. I assume this is for me. Tasmanian small business. It seems that one of the eligibility criteria is to live and operate a small business in Tasmania for 3 months before applying for the visa. What visa will you need to have 6 months before to apply for the 491? Well, any visa that allow you to work. For instance, if you are in a graduate visa, for argument's sake, that works. If you are in a student visa, you have high part-time work rights, that works. If you are a tourist visa, no, the tourist visa doesn't allow to work. But if you are in a partner visa, because the partner visa allow you to work, yes, many visas allow. Maybe the short answer is any visa that includes work rights, full or partial, will qualify for the small business visa. If I create a business with a partner, it is possible to apply both in order to get the visa. Sebastian, what do you mean by partner? Mean your significant one or a business partner? If it's your significant one, yes. If it's an associate, just in certain visas, but not in all.
Looking at the question from Jacob, I'm an early stage venture capital fintech, and I've started up in Colombia, and I'd like to come to Australia and get access to a venture capital fund. The first step you'd have to do is to go to one and find out whether you're going to be allowed to get a visa to come to Australia.
Yeah.
He then would recommend to you that if this is the best type of visa for you, he would then refer you hopefully to us, where we would look at your fintech startup and see whether it was fundable in Australia.
Yeah. It's a specific visa for this kind of trips. It's a business visa short stay. Okay, Laura says, my husband and I already have a business in Australia. We are citizens. Is there any visa that allows someone from our family to wants to invest in our business and give him the right to live in Australia? Yes, definitely you can through the investment in your business. We must to make the analysis, and in the analysis, definitely we must to check the amount of the investment, the percentage of the property your relative will have in your own business, but there are some options you can. It depends also if your business is in a regional area or in a city, but definitely it's an option. I have a farm in Colombia and I would like to bring my coffee to sell in Australia. this type of business can give me a PR. Well, technically no, because what you plan propose here is to export coffee. You must to set a business in Australia. Just the business of exporting coffee is not the reason. You have to set us an entire business in Australia. Nevertheless, you can use your Colombian employer to bring to Australia to set a business. This is a 482 visa offshore, which is also possible, but it's only for a temporary visa for 4 years.
The last few questions. Is Ana Pasa's.
One kind of visas work for Tasmania. Well, pretty much all. There are some exceptions. I think just by memory, service stations are not valid. Uber are not valid. Taxi, massage parlors, mm, fast food restaurants, and the rest is fine. Well, I think this is a question for Paul.
I think once one has referred a client to us, it would take us, providing the client is cooperative, between 1 and 3 months to complete all the documents and be in a position to hand them over to Graham.
Paul, I think that answers the question nicely. One can target a period of 1 month to start getting all of the documentation together, but it's prudent to allow 3 months to ensure that we've crossed all the T's and we've got absolutely everything ready for both our state government review and for our federal government review.
Okay. Kunal says if we start up a import spending business will be considered to a valid business idea, like a trading a good manufacturer in another countries and to sit in Australia and such that we consider. Well, it depends because in some cases you have to have an innovative idea. And for instance, in the capital venture visas, you must to have a innovative idea. So in this case, I will let Graham or Paul to give you a little more to develop the idea of innovation, which is a key element in the business.
Thank you, Juan. And yes, look, this is the area where we would like to offer some assistance. Once we understand more about the fundamental import business, what is the product that's being brought into the country, one of our roles is to try to help to put an innovative overlay on that. So to apply a technology solution or to apply a different form of distribution of the product to help not only ensure that we meet the government requirement for innovation, but more importantly, so that we can help you create a better business than many of the traditional business models that have been out there. Standard import of product into Australia. We had earlier the question of coffee import. With all candor, there are dozens and dozens of people importing coffee from Colombia, from New Guinea, from Africa, from every second person who knows anything about coffee is importing coffee into Australia. Our job is to help you put a technology overlay on that creates a new, exciting innovation that is something that our government will then look at and say, that's something special for Australia. And that's part of the role that we help you fulfill.
Next one's for you, Graham.
Tell us a bit more about how we can help turn a business idea into a successful project that meets Australian government requirements for business visa. So we started to touch on it with our last question. There are many traditional businesses that people are interested in, and our role is to see if we can take that traditional business that will not necessarily be warmly embraced by our state government and see if we can make it into something a little more special. So we recently discussed, and I'll just use a quick illustration we've spoken to some other groups about before, a group who wanted to set up a coffee shop to actually retail coffee. Now, they wanted to do that in our capital city of Canberra. Now, that's not a particularly exciting or innovative concept, but what we're able to do is to say to them, look, why don't we take the coffee shop and then help you to get the finance to acquire a vehicle where you can then start to send your barista out, but not just to go out, but to go out onto the field of bushfires or to go to emergency service sites so that you're then providing a refreshment tool for people who are working in a high stress environment. Now, obviously, we would then connect you with all of the relevant safety trainers so that we're not putting anyone into an unsafe area to get trained in bushfire awareness, for example. Now, that takes a simple business concept and puts a really innovative spin on it where our state governments really like the idea of providing services for our emergency service personnel because that helps our emergency service personnel in a tough situation enjoy something that's different, something that will lift their spirits, something that will help boost their energy. It's that kind of out of the box thinking that we try and help all of our clients to do. So can we do that for most businesses? The answer is yes. That's how we help turn a business idea into a really successful project.
Thank you so much, Graham. That's the last question from Monica.
As a small business owner in Queensland or Tasmania, do you need to have the skills related to your business to obtain PR? I'm happy to answer, but one that's probably more back to you, is it not?
I think so. Yes, thank you, Raham. Well, the answer, like many answers we lawyers give, is yes and no. Uh, yes, in the sense that you must to have some business experience, but no in the sense that you don't need that your occupation for migration will be related with your business. Let me put an example. Maybe your occupation is advertising specialist and your business is a jewelry. Perfect. Then advertising jewelry is definitely not related, but you have experience managing jewels. That's fine. That does work. But you must to show that you have experience managing a jewelry.
So no one gets behind. That's the last question for Paul.
Hi, my brother lives in Melbourne. Can we set up a business making food additives, something I've done in Colombia? As a commercial business, if you can demonstrate you have a market, yes, you can. Whether that suits you for immigration is not something I can opine upon. But people like to see track record when they consider an investment proposal. So yes, I think it's got legs on it, and I particularly would like to work with Graham on the opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope we have given you possibilities to start your way to your permanent residence in Australia. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Paul. Just the last message to all the people that join us tonight. Juan?
Thank you very much, and it has been a pleasure to talk with you. And yes, I think there is many options. I think the idea is to keep exploring, and I think we feel very confident that we, as a team, with projects and River Gold Capital, we are able to find the way to get the PR and, more importantly, successful business in Australia.
Thank you. Your time, Paul.
I endorse what Juan has said, and we look forward to having the opportunity of hearing of your business plan. And we work with Juan and Graham. And Nicholas, thank you very much for your skillful chairing of this today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. The last message, Graham.
Nicholas, again, my thanks. But look, my closing message to everybody is really more about Australia. This is a wonderful country, and it's a place we think in a post-COVID world, there's going to be a lot of change and things are being done differently. Business is different. The way that we interact with people is different. This country, of all the nations on earth, has been embracing change and innovation since its establishment. We really welcome people from around the world. Australia is one of the most multicultural societies on earth. We have people have come to join us from all over the world. So people who are coming where your first language is Spanish are welcome. There is a vibrant, dynamic Latin speaking community here, Spanish speaking community here in Australia, as there is a Chinese community, Vietnamese community. We have people from Africa, from Europe, all over the world. Come and join us. Be part of this growing, dynamic nation. Bring your ideas to us, and we'd really love to help work with you and turn them from a great idea into a really great business in a wonderful country. Come and join us.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. See you in the next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
And good night from me also. We'll look forward to seeing you, folks.